Lovely, hope you did okay. Welcome to a place called Kingsley in East Hampshire. Now you might be wondering what I'm doing here. Well, I've got 15x300s today and there's an old railway near here. I've also got my Nike Violet t-shirt on and a pink singlet underneath, getting ready for my Vaporfly 3s which were ordered in the pink colourway. Hope these ones come because the first ones I ordered in the prototype colourway didn't. So yeah, got that order cancelled and got a 20% discount from Nike, thanks very much, but unfortunately didn't work on the Vaporflies. So yeah, bit of a disaster around, and a few other people have had similar issues. So what I thought today, before I get the Vaporfly 3s, is to try the difference between the 1 and the 2, and 2 pairs that I've worn quite a lot. Because also this sort of talk is, was the Vaporfly 1 slightly softer than the 2? A lot of people seem to prefer the 1, including me. That's partly because of the lockdown. So here are the shoes. You've got the Next Percent 2s on the left, and the white ones are the Next Percent 1s. The right one there is almost sort of coming away at the front where I tend to toe off. These ones have done about 300 miles, so they've done pretty well. I want to see if I can actually get through a session in them. On the back of that one, I mean, apart from that bit at the front there, which is probably a bit cosmetic in a way, it's not too bad, to be honest. And the Next Percent 2s, they're looking better, to be honest. A bit more rubber there. You can see that I'm starting to wear away a bit there at the front, but not too bad. And this one, pretty similar, I'd say. So I think I'm going to do a little warm up running in one of each, and then I'll move on to doing some of the reps in the white Next Percent 1s and some of them in the Next Percent 2s and see how we go. And here they are. Instantly, just on foot, the white Next Percent 1 does feel a lot more sort of spongy, even though it's a 300-mile shoe. Just sort of bobbing up and down. It just feels a lot more squidgy on the left one, for sure. The lockdown's just so much better for me in the Next Percent 1 here. This Vaporweave is really hugging my midfoot, whereas on here I've tried to get these laces as tight as I possibly can, but it just doesn't feel quite as well locked down. See a lot of folding there. I got obviously folding there, but the difference is that that's really hugging midfoot very well. This isn't too bad, but it's just not quite as secure, I just find. Got a rather nice church here in Kingsley with the war memorial behind. And where I've parked is kind of doubles as the village shop, I think. I think it's not open on a Saturday, just on midweek. So I'm just checking out the local tennis courts as well. It's actually really interesting, the V1 and the V2. The V1 just feels just so much more sort of squidgy, in a nice sort of way. And I think also the fact that it's really hugging my foot a lot better. It just feels so much sort of faster, even just sort of jogging along. So I'm interested to see in these reps whether we can actually see any difference in the actual times and how I feel. But the V2 feels quite a lot firmer in some respects. Very interesting. People say that they thought the V2 was different, and certainly in these two I can certainly notice a difference. Not a huge difference, to be fair, but certainly a difference. So we're at Kingsley Quarry here, which I think the old railway used to come through this. There's sort of a bit of an embankment here, which looks a bit like it could be an old railway. The line used to go up towards Bentley, the station before Alton. So we'll see when I'm doing the reps if we can see where the old station was at Kingsley. It's about a mile from here. Okay, so now I've got the Next Percent 2s on to actually start these intervals. And I've also managed to put the stride on as well, just for good measure, see what we can see. I think I'm going to do 15 in all. I'm going to do about 8 of them in this pair and then swap them over and see how they compare to the other pair. Yeah, as I said, I just feel more comfortable in the Next Percent 1s. I just feel more squidgy, better lockdown. And yeah, but I've had some good sessions recently, some good long runs in these Next Percent 2s. A lot of my marathon pace training for Seville I did in them as well. So yeah, can't be too bad, can it? But anyway, let's crack on with the intervals. Okay, first interval done. That was slightly downhill, so cheating a bit. Matt did say to take these rests fairly gently, so I'll take his word for it, and it gives us a chance to talk to the camera. So yeah, I didn't feel too bad, the Next Percent 2s in that one. I do feel like I'm starting to feel the plate through my toes at the front a bit, which I found with the other ones. I think the Next Percent 1's just slightly more squidgy in the front. So these ones kind of feel like it's sort of wearing through quicker. Whether that's just because the whole shoe is just more firm, or just whether the toe bit, maybe I'm just pressing down on the toes a bit more. But yeah, it's a bit odd. Not sure what this place is, looks some sort of sports pitch, but long since disused. Maybe, or maybe it's for horses, who knows. Right, so I'm going to keep an eye on this watch. I think I'm approaching where the old railway crossed, so we'll do another interval and then see if we can see that. Alright, so I just interject with a few brief stats just to show what I did. So I parked in this place of Kingsley here, and I did most of the reps up this country lane towards Wheatley, and then I did the long warm down up to this
road here near Binsted, but most of the ones were along this bit here. That's the bit of old railway I actually did later on that you'll see in the video. So if we look at some of the reps, ended up doing 14. I think I miscounted, but the first rep, the one I've first highlighted here, and this one down here were basically the same. It was slightly downhill from the main road in Kingsley. I think it was an element of sort of getting used to the warm-up. So I started off at an average pace of 5:29, so good speed, but it was largely downhill. We're in the next percent 2s, went to the next percent 1s much later on, and I was actually slightly faster, but I think perhaps I was just more into it then. And the next one here were very similar. So what did I do here? 5:22 pace against 5:17. So yeah, I think considering the fact that the first couple were a bit cautious, I think it's understandable that there wasn't much of a shoe difference, to be honest. I think my very fastest rep was this one here, where I came basically all the way downhill, so even managed a sub 5 pace, which was quite good, but even the gap pace was 5:22. So most of these gap paces here, if I just highlight all the actual ones that I did, and some were uphill, some were downhill, some were sort of largely flat, but by and large I was averaging gap pace of under 5:30, which is quite pleasing. So if I can keep that for a mile, that'd be as good as I've done for a long time. So yeah, that's good. I've got a 5k on April the 4th, so looking forward to that one, see if I can get rounds. No particular time targets, just want to get round, although it would be quite nice obviously to get a sub 19, having not done that in my last 5k, but we shall see. I think these days if I get round in one piece and felt like I've done as good as I can, then that's good. So having a very quick look at the stride data, I actually made a bit of a mistake because I forgot to add the stride data field to my Garmin. So what I did is I did an offline sync, and it seems a bit odd because it actually put the date at some time about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so I had to use the fit file repair tool to merge them. So this is actually what I actually came up with, and as usual there was next to no air power. Although, to be fair, I think perhaps I was sort of doing it on a sheltered lane. But you would kind of expect some air power, wouldn't you, at sort of 5-minute mile pace, as it were, or at least 5:30 pace. What power was I getting here? Around about sort of 370s, 380s, I think. Oh, there's one there at 400. I think that was an uphill one. Yeah, you can see. So it does make quite a difference when you go uphill, even though you're going slower, how much more the power is. And that one where I went down the hill, even though I felt like I was flying, was only 364 in comparison. And there's another downhill one, 368. Anyway, it was a good session. It rather did sort of show that I do have sort of preference to the next percent 1. Although in that long warm down, which I'll talk about later, it did feel slightly uncomfortable in the toe box area. Maybe that sort of toe bumper really doesn't sort of agree with you after a while. But yeah, actually in the reps it was fine. I think the takeaway is that War Next Percent shoes, either version 1 or version 2, work pretty well for you to do intervals in. You might not want to race in it just for psychological reasons, but yeah, perfectly good to use after 300 miles, even though they look a bit battered to say the least. Anyway, hope you like this video, like and subscribe on that, and see you on the next one. Let's go back to the video where I sort of show a bit more of the footage of how I got on.
So interval 2 done. More importantly, this was where the railway to Bentley used to go, with Kingsley Station there just
On the right.
Nothing left of it now, of course. I don't think it was ever much to it. I'll see if I can find a picture and put it up there. If we swing around, we've got some old track bed which looks like it's probably private, but I wonder if I can do one interval for the sake of it up at this bit here, just so I can get around the side there and do one, can't I? Okay, as I've not run this old railway bit before, I'll get a bit of camera on it, I think. Right, 300 metre, 1 minute effort, go. It's not a bad track actually, but I'm not getting some jobs worth coming out saying I shouldn't be on it. Okay, looks like it does go a bit further down, so we can just go to the end, how far it goes. Yeah, I think we've come to the end of the road. We're on a bit of a railway, got the twigs here and branches, and through there looks like dense undergrowth, so we'll forget about that. We'll look at the map, see where it would have come out. Of course, what I need to do now is an interval back along here, isn't it? I think I'll put the camera down for this because it's getting a bit bumpy. Right, 3 down anyway. Oh, I just had the encounter with the local Jobsworth. Oh mate, this is private. Are you lost? Yes mate, sorry, I'm very lost. I'm running out this way. That's the perils of old railway exploring. Don't often find the natives very friendly. Anyway, got the interval done and see where that went. So 4 down. We'll do 4 more with this shoe. I think I'll do 1 more running onwards and better run back to the car and change shoes. Okay, 6 down. It's starting to feel a bit better actually, these next percent 2s at this speed. And I found some old cricket nets there, so I presume this is the local cricket pitch. Whether it's still in use or not, I'll have to go and find out. So 7 down, we even found a little make-believe milestone post here outside someone's house. The Yew Tree House, London 46, Winchester 23. So 1 more back to the car. We'll change into the next percent 1s. It's about enough light to get this done. Yeah, I feel like I'm working quite hard here, but the recoveries are quite nice, so Matt's been generous there, but certainly feel the lactate. This road is sort of slightly at a slight angle this bit, then I've got a big ramp up there. So interesting to see how we do in a minute in interval uphill. We've got to fight the lactate with these, and then downhill. I kind of like downhill running for sort of getting some leg speed going. I remember the old days, for my first 800 of the season, this is going back to university days, I would do some downhill strides, really gets the legs going. And on grass, it didn't really sort of impact your legs too much. These days, of course, if you just put your next percent 1s or 2 and hopefully 3 on, and off you go. Those days, very different shoes. More leather uppers and much more sort of ground feel, obviously not as cushioned, not sort of bouncy. All shoes in those days would have felt very firm compared to now, and I think a lot of people would wonder how we used to ever run in them actually, to be honest. Okay, 1 done in the next percent 1s. Actually at that sort of speed, maybe not so noticeable. I think when I was sort of going on more easily, I could feel more of a difference. And just suddenly noticed the sort of like the pressing on the big toe with the next percent 1. Was that sort of bigger toe bumper? That's the one minus sign about them, but just walking around, they definitely feel more squishy. Whether it's just imagining it on foot, but I'm about to repeat the downhill one I did first time last time. I've got 4 to go. Just about to get this done in the light, I think. And then, yeah, report back later. One of these perceptions, isn't it? You feel one shoe is totally different to the other. But when you get out actually on a run like this, you're just going for it, you're kind of thinking, oh, there's not much difference. But one thing I would say, that these 300-mile pair with the holes in and sort of the butted outside at the front, they're doing just fine. So obviously wouldn't wear these for a race. So having said that, I did actually wear them for my last park run back in last autumn. So yeah, what's the difference? Well, hard to say. Maybe need to take a good look at some stats, but the old lactate's starting to build up now, even the downhill ones. So I've got 3 more to go, and we'll call it a day. Okay, run done. I must say the next percent 1s weren't quite as comfortable as I thought on the
Warm down.
I think maybe I tightened them up a bit too much, so I feel like I was sort of slightly compressing the toes a bit. Maybe that's why I got a big blood blister on my right toe during Seville Marathon and another pair of next percent 1. So yeah, it's good to show that there are some improvements. Are definitely better. Definitely more toe box room in the next percent 2. Remains to be seen what the next percent 3 is. But overall, I kind of think, well, proof in the pudding there was that I could use both shoes that are well worn for a good session, and got through it fine. Ended up doing quite a long warm down there. Ended up going up to the end of the country lane, connected to the lane I've been to before, and it was a lot longer than I thought. I think I got my distances a bit wrong. But anyway, more miles to the back, about another 8.5 miles there and 2 miles warm up. So another 10 miles plus today. That's good. I've got a longer run tomorrow, so take it a bit easier tomorrow. We'll go inside, have a look at the stats and have some conclusions. But I think my conclusion is that next percent 1, next percent 2, next percent 1 does feel slightly squidgier, but they're all now starting to feel the plate through my toes a bit. And yeah, so interesting. Looking forward to trying out these next percent 3s if they ever come.